Hi, this is Dave from GadgetHelpline.com, and today we're going to do a review of the Google and ASUS Nexus 7 tablet with Android 4.1 Jelly Bean. So, if you watched our unboxing video before, you'll be familiar with the packaging. Nice and neat, small packaging. Unfortunately, the downside from that side is there's no headphones, but it is pretty cheap at £159, so that doesn't really matter. So, we're going to take a look at the tablet here. So, 7-inch tablet. It's got a tough Gorilla Glass front screen. We've got a 1.3 megapixel camera at the top there for video calling, and there's a proximity sensor as well. Other than that, there's no buttons. Unlike with Android phones and some other Android tablets, you've got the touch buttons at the bottom. Jelly Bean is on the screen, which we'll show you in a bit. Have a look at the bottom there. We've got the 3.5mm headphone jack and a micro USB port. That's all that's on there. If we turn it around there to take a look at the side, we've got the power button, and if I just turn that over a bit easier, we've got the volume buttons as well. Those are soft touch. It's quite a premium feel for the price of the tablet. On the top, nothing there, and on this side we've just got 4 magnetic connections, which is for a dock which is coming along later in the year for the device. If we turn it over to the back there, we've got the Nexus logo emblazoned in there, and the ASUS logo as well, who made it, and a speaker grill at the bottom, and that's pretty much all there is. The back is quite a nice soft touch. It looks pretty premium, and it feels good. It's nice and easy to hold in the hand, which we like. So if we turn that one over, and we'll just take a look at the device, we're going to power it on. We're taken into the Jelly Bean lock screen. So you've got your padlock in the middle. You can drag it anywhere sort of out of the circle in this area to unlock. You've got the padlock at the bottom there. Or you can drag straight up into Google Now, which is a new search feature in Jelly Bean. We'll come to that later. Just bring that back and we'll unlock. So here we're into the standard Jelly Bean home screen. So you've got your customizable 5 home screens, which is pretty standard in Android. Just have a flick through there. You can customize these with widgets, applications as you wish. You've got the standard dock at the bottom, which contains by standard, it contains the Google apps, so you've got ebooks, music, Chrome, etc. And as I mentioned before, there's no buttons on the bezel of the device, they're on the screen, so you've got back, home, and multitasking, which brings up apps that are open. You can swipe them off to close them, or tap on them to open them. Those stay there all the time. The launcher, or the home screen, stays in portrait mode the whole time, but apps, if you turn it this way into landscape, they will switch. So if we hit the launcher there, you can see the Jelly Bean menu. Take a look through, you go through from apps to widgets. Plenty on here. We've added a few ourselves as well to customize our home screens, and as I'm sure you'll probably see there, very fast to flick through, and also very quick to open, close and multitask with apps. That's thanks to the quad-core Tegra 3 processor. The next main feature really of the Nexus 7 is the 7-inch IPS display. For a device that's £159, it's incredibly bright and crisp and vivid. Using the device sort of through our review period, a lot of people have asked us sort of, well, it's the size of a Kindle and it's similar in price as well. Is it any good for reading books? As standard, you've got the Google Books here, and you can also download Kindle. So it's certainly plenty of books on offer for you to download. In terms of is it as good as the Kindle, it's not as easy to read in sunlight by a long stretch of the imagination. However, when you've got the brightness up full, it is pretty easy to read, unless it's extremely sunny and it's straight onto the screen, in which case, due to the glass front, you'll find that you'll just be seeing your reflection, or the reflection of what's behind you. It's pretty reflective, which is quite annoying in the sunlight, but as you can see there, the text is nice and crisp. Both the Amazon and the Google Books applications work brilliantly on here. You've got options to increase your text size. You can change it to day and night theme, so if you're reading in the dark, you're not going to strain your eyes there. You've got white text on black. I found it really nice to use the Google Books app over the Amazon one, the Kindle app, but it's a great app as well. So you've got two on offer there rather. So for reading books, it's pretty great unless you're in direct sunlight, in which case the Kindle wins out. We mentioned there that we've got it on full brightness. This device will still give you a decent battery life even when you've got it up on full. I think from a full charge we got over 24 hours of standby, and around about, when you check the battery stats and settings, we got about 5 hours of constant screen usage, which is pretty decent. If you lower the brightness, you do less sort of power draining usage, such as playing games, you can get around about 8 to 10 hours battery life out of this device, which is pretty great. When it comes to holding the Nexus 7, its light form factor and 7-inch size makes it quite easy to hold. It's got a thin-ish bezel around the sides here, which makes it it's a bit of a pain when you're reading. Your thumbs, if you've got bigger hands, you may sort of find your thumb touching icons on the edge of the screen, which can be a bit annoying. It's quite easy to hold like this in the palm of your hand, providing you haven't got tiny hands, or like this. And we found ourselves quite comfortably holding it, and reading it in bed is the perfect size. It's much easier to manage than an iPad. When you're gaming, things like that, you can turn it around to the side, and as you can see, you've got more bezel to hold here, so it's a lot easier to use. You can reach across the center of the screen, and thanks to the Tegra 3 quad-core processor, this thing will play some of the latest games. So you've got Dead Trigger, The Dark Knight Rises there. These are console quality games, and they run absolutely beautifully on the device, which is another fantastic feature that we. Overall, we feel that Jelly Bean complements the Nexus 7 quite well. It's nice and fast. It's nothing too different from the norm. It's nothing that's a huge jump from Ice Cream Sandwich. It's just smoother, it's faster. You've got new widgets and a selection of apps there. But the main feature is Google Now, which is something that we surprisingly found quite handy and increasingly impressive. So you can get into that by holding on the home icon at the bottom and sliding up to the Google logo. Now, Google Now is a search tool first and foremost. You can use it to search by voice or text online, and it will give you what are called cards. So you can search for whatever you want in here. Oops. So you can give that a search in there, and it will give you web, images, places, news, and more. It's a very easy to use search experience, but where it really comes into its own, if we just take that back, is it links into when you use Google on your PC, on a tablet, on a smartphone. If you search for something online, for example, when we were using the device, we searched for cinema times for our local cinema. 5 minutes later, probably even less than that, Google Now pops up, recognizing that we've searched for film times at that cinema, and tells us how long it's going to take us to get there by driving, by public transport, and it also offers us the best route, alternatives for traffic based on that time specifically, and also an option to open it up in maps to actually get us there. So it's pretty useful. It can also be used for other things. If we show the sample cards, if we can get that there, if the Nexus 7 detects that you've gone abroad, it will offer you cards for translation, so you can do that by voice, and it will also offer you public transport, flight times, any changes and things like that, and it will also give you translation and currency conversion as well. So it's a very useful tool, and one that we found ourselves surprised to be loving to use on the Nexus 7. The build quality of the Nexus 7 was one that's quite impressive. For a device that's £159 for the 8GB model or £199 for the 16GB model, you'd expect it to be made out of cheaper materials and feel slightly light or perhaps flimsy when you look at rivals such as the Arcos or the Arnova products, who pump out quite a lot of tablets in this sort of price range. This thing is head and shoulders above them. It's really compact, it's got a nice grippy back for holding, the screen quality is fantastic, and there's no sort of creaks or knocks there. You will notice occasionally if you press on the screen, you will get a little bit of blur there from when you're pushing pressure onto it, but generally the build quality is above and beyond what we would have expected from the device. Nevertheless, there are some downsides to the Nexus 7. First and foremost, the 8GB storage on this particular model we found wasn't enough. Obviously that's not something that you're going to find a surprise, but we thought 8GB would be okay. But when you start installing the latest games, things like The Dark Knight Rises and some other applications, when they update, they download packages to sort of give you more functions, features and things like that. It will quickly use up the storage and you cannot be aware of it. We did run out of storage. As you can see, these are the apps that we've got on here. We've got a couple of Spotify playlists saved. We've got the Transformers movie that came free with it, and a couple of books as well. It's not a huge amount of storage space, but you have to be wary that apps will take up space in the background, and you may have to find yourself saving documents to the cloud to make space, which you can do, which is great, or perhaps looking through for things that you don't need and deleting them to make room. We're sure that you won't find this problem with the 16GB model, of course. Using the device, we found that it did get hot on more than one occasion. Not too hot to hold, but it was a little disconcerting, and we weren't using the device in direct sunlight, but when we were playing games and things like that, it did get a little warm, so that's something to note. I don't think it's particularly a fault or a problem like that, but again, it's something to note. It was a little bit of a downside. The display, as we've mentioned, due to the Gorilla Glass front, which is great, it's protective, it's scratch proof and things like that, which makes it nice and protected. It's very reflective, especially you take this thing outside. The screen brightness is enough so that you can see the screen quite clearly, but you will find when you're using it outside, if you don't focus clearly or focus on what you're looking at, you can find yourself looking at a reflection of yourself, which can be a bit annoying. Finally, in the sort of downsides for the tablet, not every app or every website has been designed with a 7-inch tablet in mind, and unfortunately when you're looking through, you might find a good app, as we did a couple of them, and they don't quite work with the Nexus 7 perfectly. I'm sure with this being Google's flagship product and Jelly Bean being their next OS they want to put on everything, they will be getting app developers to make their apps and websites, in fact, to work perfectly with it. So that's something that won't bother people for too long, I'm sure. So that just about wraps up our review of the Google and ASUS Nexus 7 with Android 4.1 Jelly Bean. As we've said, it's got a stunning high-resolution HD display. It's great for reading except in sunlight, unfortunately. It's got a great quad-core fast processor, which will let you play the latest games. You'll never be missing out, and the build quality is very, very impressive. So for the price, you can't really go wrong with this device. If you can overlook the small storage space or go for the 16GB model instead, then it's certainly the tablet to get if you're looking for one around this size. That's all for now. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to tune into our YouTube channel and on the blog for the latest gadget videos, news and reviews.